Hey everyone, welcome to another video with the Aftermarket BIOS being made by Mr. IQ132, I think it is, 123. I've probably got that wrong now. With his BIOS that he's making, which is an aftermarket BIOS, so it's a complete BIOS replacement. So this is your BIOS chip here. Basically, you'll take that chip out and put an EEPROM in there with his BIOS on it, and then you'll be able to use all the features in his BIOS. If you don't know about the BIOS, there's lots of information on my webpage about it in the homebrew section of my page. One of the biggest features is you can actually specify what region you want the game to play, the cartridge to play at, which is huge because a lot of cartridges, they're not in English. So let's say you plug in Demon Front and you've got the Japanese or the Korean version. There's not a lot of English in it, but what this allows you to do is you can select the world region, which is in English, and a lot more of the game will be in English. So that's a huge killer feature. It's got other good stuff. It's got better memory tests. It gives more information about the cartridges. You can test RAM better. It'll actually identify which RAM is the bad RAM instead of just saying test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, test 5. And it actually works. The actual RAM test on the factory PGM BIOS, it actually doesn't test the RAM properly. You can actually have a chip off the board, like not even have a chip there, and it still says the chip's okay. And I've tested that a lot, so you know there are mistakes there. So this one actually tests it, and you can actually put it into a loop, and it will just sit there going round and round and around testing the RAM. In case you've got a board that's a little bit sus or every now and then plays up, that's a really cool feature to have. So what I wanted to do today, guys, is I wanted to show you how to remove the BIOS chip in preparation for when he actually releases the BIOS. What I'll be doing, I'll be selling the BIOS, so I can sell it to you in an EEPROM, and you actually remove the BIOS chip yourself and put a socket there and then put the EEPROM in. What I will be selling will be the modified BIOS and a stock BIOS. That way, if you ever want to go back to the factory defaults, you can just pull out the modified BIOS and put in a stock one. So don't worry about if you find any bugs or anything like that. I'll always be selling the standard BIOS in an EEPROM, so you can always go back to standard. So that's a cool feature today. Now, for this video, I want to remove the BIOS chip. Now, this is a 4-layer board. It is a dip package, so it's through hole. It's quite difficult to remove, even with the Hako FR301, this guy, which helps a lot. And I recommend that if you're going to be doing recapping or working on arcade boards or anything like that, this is definitely a piece of kit to have. They are so good, it is not funny. But yeah, even with this guy, it's difficult. So what I do, if you've got a case where, in this case, the BIOS chip's not important. If it's damaged, we don't care, because all we want to preserve are the vias and the tracks. We don't want any track damage, no via damage, nothing like that. So the best way to do this is actually to snip off each of the legs one by one, and then actually pull the legs out one at a time once the chip's been removed. Now, these pair of cutters here, these are really, really good. I think they're made in Italy or Japan. These ones here specifically, this is a JCar item. I'll try to provide the link in the comments section for the video, for a link to it. If I don't, it's in the JCar catalog, so it's not too hard to find. I'm sure there'll be cutters like this in America. They have to be quite fine. If you have a look at the end there, if you can see it very well, it's quite fine because you have to actually cut the legs. So what I want to do is, see the BIOS chip, I'll go to each leg and just give it a quick snip. There we go. There we go. Oh, that one didn't go very well. Snip that one. Snip that one. That one. Now, if you want to practice this, grab some sort of dummy board or a board that you've got that's faulty or something, and just snip all the legs, and you can use that for practice. Now, almost done. this side. Now, let's turn it around. Now, just be a little bit careful. You've got resistor packs here on each side. You don't want to accidentally hit that and then break them or anything. So just keep them. You can move them. Sometimes they're over to the side a little bit. So just gently bend them back over and it'll be fine. So this thing's valid for pretty much anything that's dip package. You can just snip the legs off. Right, this one, there we go. Right, now, how did we go? No, there's one that's still connected. Just in here. Come on. There we go. Right, so we got one side done. Now, usually, you can just give it, that's it. Now, what's that? I've just put a little scratch on the board. That's okay. That's fine. But as you can see, obviously the chips, you know, that's never going to work again. But you can get rid of that. That's fine. This is actually the standard pinout for an EEPROM for a 27C1024. Goes straight into here. So it's all drop-in replacements. You don't have to cut any tracks or do any other thing like that. It's just removing the chip. Now, let's see if I can... see if I can get this. I wonder if this will work. Let me see. What I'm trying to do is get the camera a little bit closer. Now you're probably going to need a little dobs of solder to put onto your iron. So just get your solder. Turn it up. It has to be up quite high. So put a ball of solder onto the tip. Grab your pair of tweezers, and then we just go along one at a time. No, not enough solder on that. So I'll just clean the tip there a second. Right. Add a bit more on that. Grab your tweezers. Hit the pin. Do we get that one? No. No. Ah, this is the power. This is the power pin. That's why she's being a little bit annoying. But all you have to do is just put a little bit more solder on it. Heat it up. Come on. Make sure that's turned up. A little bit more solder. She's not... doesn't want to come out. That's it. That's one done. Now move on to the next one. A bit more solder. Go. Whoop. Dropped it over there. So as you can see, this is really quite easy to do. You just heat them all up and then just gently pull them out. Now, another good thing to do is on the other side of this board, sometimes the dip pins get bent. So when you're trying to pull them out, they won't come out very well. So make sure when you before you do this step, turn the board over and just make sure all the pins are fairly straight. That way when you pull them out like this, you're not going to have any problems. Oh, missed him. Come on. Here we go. Now, I won't bore you with doing every single one of those pins because obviously the way of doing it is fairly self-explanatory there. You just do the same thing for all of them. Then get your FR301, hopefully, if you've got one of these guys. Turn the board over and then just suck out all the solder. And then you'll have all the vias will be open again, and then you can put a socket in, just a normal IC socket. Let me see if I got one handy. No, don't have one handy right here. Why not? No, they're all packed away at the moment. Anyway, you could use different. You can use the low-cost sockets, or you can use a machine pin socket. This is a 40-pin socket, is what you're going to need, or you could put a ZIF socket in. But the problem with the ZIF sockets is that they're going to hit these resistor packs. And what I'm hoping to do with this board, because this is going to be my test board for testing the IGS BIOS, I'm actually going to move these packs onto the other side and put a ZIF socket in there, which stands for zero insertion force. So it's got a little handle. I'll just show you what I mean. Just grab my EEPROM programmer. And that's a ZIF socket. See how it's got a little handle? And you put the handle up, put the chip in, and then put it down and it locks it in place. So I'm going to put one of these guys in there, basically. So that's a zero insertion force ZIF socket. They're not too expensive. I wouldn't go for the cheaper ones if you're going to actually put a ZIF socket in there. You can just put a normal machine pin. I'll just grab one. Where are they? Ah, here we go. This is the cheaper type that you can get. So this is not a machine one, and basically this is actually a 42 pin, not a 40, so it's a little bit longer. But this is the sort of socket you can do, and then you just mount that in there. And once you've removed obviously all the pins and everything, that'll just sit in there, and then you can just solder it from the other side. So that's it, guys. I just want to do a quick video on that. It's a really good skill to have. Because sometimes the board is the most important bit and you don't care about the chips, so you just want to get it out as quickly as possible and with as least damage to the board. That way you're not heating up the board so much. There's no risk of ripping up wires, ripping up tracks, doing anything crap like that. So there you go, guys. That's how I do it. I've been doing it like that for a very long time. If you have any questions or anything, check out my webpage. Obviously, check out the homebrew section. There's a beta manual on the BIOS and what it all does, and that's all in the homebrew section. Anyway, thank you guys. Catches.